Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Hope you've all had a good holiday, festive time. Didn't drink too much, no bad heads and being sick and all that sort of stuff that one does when one's young. Long since past all that. Anyway, I've managed to remember which way up the camera goes, having not picked it up for an incredibly long time. I'll go out in the grow room in a minute, and that'll be the first time anything in a pot has been even looked at for 8 days. So there is some watering to do. In fact, there's quite a lot of watering to do, but I might actually stagger it over a couple of days and get back into the swing of it, because it is mounts day today, or non-resting mounts, and with pots as well, and hanging stuff up to drip. I get in my own way basically, so we'll see how we go. A few things, let me just show you this. Now that doesn't look much, but that's actually an antique wine crate that my son got me, and he liked it so much, even though he doesn't drink wine, he got one for himself as well. I need to find somewhere nice to put that, where I can have my wine, and I get through my wine fast enough that I don't really need to keep it cool and dark. So I'm actually thinking of setting that up, you know, like in the house instead of out in the dark corner in the hallway where my wine's kept now. But yeah, that's a bit special. I like that a lot. Other things. Sorry, I'm moving quick. Tough. My eldest son is heavily into lots of conservation stuff, and he knows that snow leopards are one of my favourite things, and if we don't look after them, we ain't going to have any soon. There's a lot of work going on. Luckily, the snow leopard is one of the cats that can survive with not too much help because of where they live. Where they live, we don't. So we're not really encroaching on their areas. They do live up above that snow line, so we don't go up there much. So it's just a matter of linking together the small groups so that they can meet up. That's all they need. It is just to know where the others are. They are naturally solitary, but yeah, so he's made a donation, and I've adopted a snow leopard. We've got lots of stuff to read all about snow leopards and things. Probably isn't much in there that I don't already know, but yeah, that's nice. So that's a contribution to world wildlife, specifically for the snow leopards anyway. And my daughter got me an orchid mug for my coffee. So instead of having a boring old mug with nothing specific on it, I've now got an orchid mug. And she said, if it's going to go out in your grow room while you're drinking your coffee, it ought to look the part. So we have a mug with some phalaenopsis on. Before I go out in the grow room, what's happening in here? My Psychopsis has opened, and I'll come around the other side. The Phalaenopsis branch, these blooms are probably only 2/3 the size of the original spike, but they've grown their buds in bad light, you know, higher temperatures, drier air. It does have an effect on your blooms, but you know, at least it is blooming, we'll give it that. And the other spike will push on. What else in here? Not a lot really. No, I mean my two Paphiopedilums, they do last quite a long time, but I'm probably, by keeping them in the house, reducing the length of time those blooms will last, because the air's drier and warm. Well, the warmth is for the plants, not for the blooms. That's the reason these plants have come indoors, is that it drops down too cold outside. And there are some other things out here that probably don't like some of the lower temperatures, but they'll live with it, and they, you know, all it will do is slow them right down. It's not going to hurt them in any shape or form. Right, relatively major change out here is I've taken all the shade netting off now. The lot's gone, and that was based by standing out in the back garden and watching where the shadows go. And as you can see now, that is a bright window, but there's a shadow halfway down. That's because the sun is so low in the sky. That's the shadow of the fence. Yeah, well, until the sun starts to climb, that shadow's permanent. And as that shadow moves across, it means that these won't get direct sun on them through the glass. So I'm happy to take the shade netting off and give more light to those shelves, probably only for 3 or 4 weeks, and then as the sun starts to climb, I'll have to start thinking about not only them getting sun on them, but the strength of the sun will start increasing. So I've got to go steady, you know, everything in moderation. And boy, do those look good in the sunshine. Yeah, so my Vanderspike's gone now, the white one, purple one up the back, or big blue as I call it. That's still hanging in there nicely. And I've just got a lovely waft of, what will it be? It's going to be twinkles, isn't it? So there's quite a few of the spikes on the cinnamon twinkle are going, but it's still got the last couple of relatively recently opened, so I do have a continuation. And the tiny twinkle up here probably won't last a great deal longer. It's still out, it's still looking nice, and as I get this down to water it, the fragrance hits me. And it is, literally, it's vanilla fudge, as though you've just opened the box. And instead of stuffing yourself with sweet stuff, I stuff myself with the fragrance from the orchid. It's done well, that little plant. I thought I was going to lose it. So to push on and produce blooms, and it's starting its new growth already. There's a couple in there pushing out, so it's made it. It's done okay, and it seems to like being on that mount. Lovely blooms, tiny but smashing. So there's not much else in bloom out here that you haven't seen. Let me just get this down and see how these spikes are developing. This is this Dinema polybulbon, was Encyclia, I think, has been changed, but there are spikes on this lurking. They are small, they are pushing on, they grow out from between the 2 leaves at the top of the pseudobulb, so there are quite a lot of them. They are extending now, because it's done this before, and then they just dry up. It looks like they might make it this time. It's quite a few of them. Quick count, 1.5, 2. Where are we? Coming up this side. 3, that's a good one. 4, 5, 6, about 7 spikes. If they all bloom, that should look quite nice, especially if they all come out together. So that's coming on. Need some water. When I say I haven't done anything out here, the non-resting mounted orchids are still on a 2 or 3 day cycle, depending on the old currant bun coming in the window. You know, without that, I don't get the heat, and without the heat, they don't dry out as quick. So it's just adjusting according to what's going on with the weather outside. So yeah, and then the non-resting, the resting mounts, the resting dendrobiums, they're on about a 10 to 12 day cycle. At which time they get the tiniest trickle that I can give them. I try not to get the bulk of the moss wet, just the sort of bare rooted areas, and just a trickle, just enough to stop them dehydrating. And at the moment it seems to be working. And I got a little competition going in my head. Out of all the resting dendrobiums, I know which ones haven't bloomed at all, and I know the ones that have. But out of all that lot, who's going to be first? And I'm excluding the noblies because they're already on the go, as you can see. I've still got quite a lot of buds to come on this one. But yeah, it's decided to bloom out of season, so be it. But it means there won't be a lot of blooms left for the late winter, early spring. But I think these buds, given that these buds are only just starting down here, yeah, and there's room for some more, I think that's going to be in bloom till probably out the end of February. So although it's not a mass blooming, it's a blooming. That'll do. This time of year there's not a lot about. And these are gorgeous, but they're variable. See, now that one's got quite a few pink tinges, and they're noticeable. And then you get others that are almost pure white. So it does vary, even on the same plant. That's still doing well. That looks nice in the sun. It's funny the cameras won't pick up the sparkles. Well, that is sparkling. You know, it's as though it's got Christmas glitter on it. It looks absolutely gorgeous. That's I've forgotten rhodostictum. So yeah, there's a few things on the go out here. My other Tolumnia spike's in full go now, so that's nice. The Cattley's still in bloom. It's got to be the cool temperatures. I can think of no other reason why that type of large bloomed Cattleya is lasting that long. And the miracle of the season is why the hell Melissa Bryony has still got its blooms on. The plant don't look very happy. My Nellie Isla spike's pushing on, bud's starting to swell. These blooms are going over on this thing, Maxillaria arachnitiflora, something like that. But I didn't expect that to bloom. That seems to be a spring bloomer in the main, although it does bloom on and off. So that was an unusual thing to happen. I didn't expect that, I must admit. Buds on the big nobly are all pushing on nicely. And it's funny, I was worried that that was starting to bud early. But given the length of time they're going to take before the first bloom actually opens, I reckon it's not far off its normal time. I think that's going to be in its main blooming season. It is February, and I think it's actually on track. I thought it was a bit early, but perhaps not. Cymbidium buds are swelling nicely now. The other one's hidden up in there. But yeah, two spikes on a single new growth for somebody who knows absolutely nothing about Cymbidiums. I'll live with that. And, you know, come end of April time, that's going out in the garden again. That's where it lived this year. It stayed out in the garden until there was a threat of sort of getting down below 5 degrees overnight, and I thought I'd better bring it in. But otherwise, it just lives in the garden. It gets some morning sun for a few hours, and then the rest of the day it's shaded. And that gets watered and fed along with my bonsai. So it doesn't get treated like an orchid. It lives with the bonsai, it gets treated the same. Doesn't get any special treatment, that's for sure. My Rungostylis blooms are lasting well. That's in the dark. I don't know if you can see that. It's where the light is. It's not in the dark at all. It's actually in quite bright light, but the bright light's the wrong side. See if it'll... You know, one day there's a wire up there that's the actual thermostat for the inlet and extractor fans in the summer, and it needs to be high. And one day I'm going to hang that flipping great thing on that electrical wire instead of the stiff wire and pull it down. That'll be fun. But yeah, these blooms are lasting well, and I'm pleased with that spike. As a first time spike, that's not bad. And hopefully the next one will push out a bit higher up and not be sat on the basket and actually get a bit... Most of the ones I've seen are much longer than that with a lot more blooms on. So for a first time bloom I'm happy, but the next one should be better than that. 2 plants in there, and the one at the back, the second plant, is bigger and stronger but has yet to bloom. So I'm expecting something to happen with that in the not too distant future. I don't know whether I can get over there, but my Laelia anceps, the buds are just pushing out the top of the sheaths now. I still don't know how long it's going to be, but there seems to be, I'll say several buds in each spike, like more than one. How many it will be, I don't know. All the sheaths on the rest of the Cattleyas have buds showing at their base. So all of the new growths that have got sheaths have got buds, but until those start to sort of push up and break out the sheath, there's nothing really to see. Nothing to see here, move along. This thing, I think it might actually manage to open a bud. This is the one where all the buds blasted. It's a Phalaenopsis, Dendrobium Phalaenopsis type, and all the buds sequentially blasted right up there. Well, that one's still showing green. It hasn't gone that straw yellow colour yet, so I think that's going to make it. And the other spike up there is showing its colour quite nicely now. So soon, hopefully, I can identify 2 of them. Marvellous. Been waiting to do that for ages. What else have we got out here? That totally uninteresting thing is still there. It's Bulbophyllum something. What did I think it was? Oh, that's the one that's got a possible name. Came from Archie. It's Crassipes, he thinks, so I don't know either way. And quite honestly, with a bloom like that, it's probably going to go to somebody else. That bloom to me is of no interest. I mean, there's some smashing bulbophyllum blooms around. That has got like botanical interest probably, but it's certainly no spectacle. Luckily, it doesn't stink, or it would have been out of here already. What else have we got? What I thought I'd do, just to fill this out, because I do need to get on and do some watering today, and it'd be nice to do it while the sun's out, is just go round the types, saying briefly what I'm up to with them. Starting at the top then. Vandas, they're still getting dunked in the bucket every second or third day, again, depending on light levels and heat in here. If we get days like this, it'll be every other day. If we get the dull days where it stays cool in here all day long, then every third day. But they still get dunked in the bucket. And I've made my mind up that it's Rick's fault. I'm going to blame Rick. It's all his fault. And why is it his fault? Because what he does works. And when I see something working, I think, can I jump on the bandwagon? So yes, my mounted orchids, come the growing season, they're actually going to get dunked. They're not going to get water poured over them. I've watched Rick watering his mounts, and he waters the whole plant. The whole plant goes in the water and feed, if it's got feed in it. So the leaves are getting a good soaking as well as the plants. Now I know at the time when he does that, he's mainly growing outside, so you've got the airflow, you've got the ability for the plants to dry fast. But in my growing season, I've also got that ability. Providing that happens early enough in the day, those plants will have dried off. But in the meantime, they'd have had access to a lot more hydration and nutrients. So a little change of style with my mounted orchids come the better weather, the longer days and everything. If I soak my mounts now, they'd still be wet lunchtime tomorrow. I just haven't got the heat. But it is warming up in here today with a bit of sun. It's up to 20. Over the Christmas period, just checking on that. I don't think I got above 17 out here. Well, I've got an extra 3 degrees today already. Brilliant. Stuff working. So a little change. But going round my lower light ones, which are bottom shelf, Masdevallias, Restrepias, that one's blooming its head off at the moment. The others are having a bit of a rest, but they do that. But lots of blooms on a single plant there. They're all from the same plant. So Restrepias, Masdevallias, and quite honestly, I keep in my head, my Miltoniopsis go in with them. They like the same sort of light levels. They like to stay cool. And it's been 8 days since they had water. They are now dry, but they haven't been dry long. And in those lower temperatures and on a lower shelf without the high light hitting them, they're okay. Now, yes, they're not supposed to dry out, but I've found if you keep them soggy in the winter, with the lower temperatures, you start getting mould around the base of the plants. Yeah? So that's what I do. I'm not saying it's recommended, I'm just saying it's what I do. And they're all still alive and they're all still doing okay. So that's that. My Coelogenes, I suppose I could, not knowing any better, I could lump those in with the Odontoglossums and the cooler growing Oncidium types. They could go together quite nicely. They don't like high levels of light. They don't like the warmth. They like to stay a bit cooler. And in the summer, that's achieved by being directly in front of these little computer fans, which has a cooling effect. So I reposition plants once the growing season kicks in and we get some warmth in here. My bulbophyllums, I'm lazy. I still haven't looked up at individual plant level what I should be doing with them. But none of them are dying and they're all growing, so I can't be far off. But come the growing season, I might need to work out if I've actually got some cool growers in amongst these. Most of these are warm and some are hot growing, but it's at plant level, and I ought to be doing that. This time of year they're all getting the same, whether they like it or not, but come the growing season I will have choices, so I might have a bit of an extra bit of work on the bulbophyllums. What other types we've got? We've got what I call the Oncidium intergenerics and Oncidium types that are not predominantly odontoglossum or something special like Nellie Isla. You get that warm, it'll wilt. Nuisance. But all of those this winter are getting the best light they've ever had. They're getting a lot more light. There's direct sun on some of those leaves. Not all of the leaves. They provide a bit of shadow for each other, even on the same plant, and the sun moves. So the same leaves are not in the brightest sun all the time, and they seem to be doing a bit better, and I don't think they've slowed up as much this year as they have done in the past. Slowing down to virtually a stop on the ground, you can't see anything happening, so it's as good as stopped. My Deesas get a little bit of sun. Well, quite honestly, where they grow in quite open places. They do get sun, but they are naturally cool. They're not in hot air, and they are naturally in moist areas. There's often running water around their roots and things, so I think I'm okay with those. But this is their first winter. Good, bad or indifferent, that's what they're getting. And all I do is when the tray's dry, I give them a couple of days, because they're in 50% peat mix, which holds moisture a long time, but they must never dry out totally. That they will just die there and then. So I've got to go careful with those little potfuls. But yeah, I let the tray dry sit dry for several days, and then I top the tray up. And they always get watered from the bottom. I'm not pouring water in the top of those pots. They are prone to rotting, so Right, that's those. Latoria types at the moment are getting treated exactly the same as the Oncidium types, but they're not up near the glass. So they're set back from the glass a bit, so they get dappled sunlight. But they are getting sunlight, they're getting some, but it moves, so it never stays on a leaf for long. Most of the Latorias are up in there, the larger ones. The only one that isn't really is this one, because it's in bloom. So this has become a little display area, this top shelf. I quite like that. So I can see them from in the house. My little pinguiculars, I can see them from in the house. And I like to see these, they're pretty little flowers. They come and go. And come on you, that's the one new one I've got that hasn't bloomed yet. God, those leaves actually feel wet. That's the sticky stuff that traps the flies. It's like a goo, or glue even. Cattleya types, brightest light I can give them this time of year. Those are all my new ones in the holy clay pots, as close to the glass as I can get them without touching. Yeah, they get their sunlight a little bit later in the day as it comes around the corner. They're just coming into their bright light at an angle, but nonetheless quite bright light. My Phalaenopsis dendrobiums this year are getting more light than they've ever had. And I've got some spikes, and I've got some maturing new growths, and I have got new growths on them. So I think that higher light is good for them. What isn't good for them is these low temperatures during the winter at night. They're not happy with that, but at the moment they're surviving. But I'm pretty confident that's why those buds blasted. Drat it, but what else can I do? There's only so much room in the house. I can't take the whole lot in the house, and I'm not heating this place up to those sort of temperatures. That would cost a fortune. The other Cattleya types are up here. Again, top shelf, brightest light, warmer, hot air rises. The difference really this time of year is negligible, because the artificial heat from my heater in here, as soon as that heater comes on, the circulating fan stirs the whole of the grow room. So it heats it uniformly. There aren't hot or cold spots. That's how I've worked it out. So there's a couple of Brassica types up against the glass there. Again, they've never had that much light before. And then, I'm going to blind you by the sun, but tough. In fact, all of the resting dendrobiums are in the roof. So there's a whole row of them there. There's a phyllum in there, that's the Kiki from Alberto, my Jenkinsii, my thing with the bulbous canes on, which is, come on brain, Findleyanum I think. There's a Primulinum up the end. This row is not resting types. That's my Brassivola, 3 Brassivola types, the Rhyncholallia glauca, Brassivola nodosa. Buds are forming on the spikes now, and the other Brassivola hybrid David Sanders, and my highlight Arengis, and my thing, whatever that is, I've forgotten, Epidendrum nocturnum, the one that had the most gorgeous bloom, which you didn't see because it self-pollinated and collapsed. Toad. And then the big stuff up there is Nestor, Friedrichianum, my Anosmum, and then coming along to this end, these two are non-resting. This is Harveyanum and Hercoglossum, so that they're not resting, but they're up there to get some good light. So that's, and yeah, my resting dendrobiums, they're in the sun. They've never had more light than that. And I've reduced the water more than I did last year, and I started their rest probably 5 or 6 weeks earlier this year. So if they don't bloom now, I don't think they ever will. So that's just generally going round. I'll get told off if I forget the zygos. The one that's in bloom's still up in there so that I can see it, although it is a bit buried at the moment. The reason it's buried is the other Latoria that's in bloom at the moment. And I've tried to arrange this plant so that I can see the back of the blooms because it's more interesting than the front. There's lovely delicate spotting, but when you get round to the front, they're not quite so interesting, although they do have lovely pattern in the lip. I ought to get that one out really and put it on my display shelf. I'll do that as I'm watering. I'll remember this time. So that's really the sort of generalised winter care that's going on by type. And that's going to change in probably 5 to 6 weeks. At that time, I should be starting to see buds on the resting dendrobiums. Then I have to make that decision at what point do I start increasing the water a bit? And then at what point do I start introducing a very low level of feed to try and build up into the growing season when they will get, what's the expression now? All together now. Feed and water well. There we go. Summer care is easy. Feed and water well. Yeah, it's the in-between ones that are a nuisance. So that's what's going on out here at the moment. And as I said, if I come across anything that I haven't noticed, because as I said, it's been 8 days since I've been out here, then I'll add that on the end. But otherwise, that will do for a first video after Christmas. And I'm sure I will film something else before the actual new year. But if I don't get anything up before then, have a great new year, whatever you do. I know exactly what I'm doing, absolutely nothing. That's what I do at New Year, because to me it doesn't do anything for me, it's just another day. But it will trigger off my thoughts this year of a new growing season coming. Non-bloomers blooming for the first time. There's a list of them. I might even do a video listing them and why I think they are in that category. But apart from that, I'm happy so far through the winter. Nothing's keeled over, everything's hanging in there. Coming on okay. I don't think this thing's going to make it. When I took that huge Cattleya, that's it there, Rose Pixie Pinafore, and it was on that huge piece of cork bark, and I took it off and took the leads off and put the 2 best bits in the holy clay pot, and that was just a little new growth on its own with one pathetic root. And I thought, well, it's got to be worth sticking it in a pot, but I don't think that's going to make it. But apart from that, everything's sort of doing okay. And if I come across anything else, I'll film it. Otherwise, thanks for dropping by, and see you next time. And any of you that have still got a headache from your Christmas festivities, well, get the aspirin out. See you next time. Bye for now.